Hey everyone, I'm going to show you how to make these Halloween cocktails. I'm about to be out the door for delivery. I apologize for running a little bit late today. So I'm not going to shake these up and everything. Hopefully the instructions in the email showed that, but I'm going to tell you just a little bit about each one. So we'll start with the jack-o'-lantern. So this will be the kind of yellowy full jar. In fact, I think I've labeled all of yours today. And it's a mix of Jack Daniels, some St. George spiced pear liqueur, which is a distillery. I believe they're out of Utah. They make a couple great gins. And once a year I revisit their spiced pear liqueur. They used to make a spiced apple liqueur that also was phenomenal, but it's just a really, really lovely product that you can kind of throw in anything. It's like 10 years ago, they used to joke that St. Germain was something that every bartender overused. I think St. George around the winter time is the 2020 version of that. So then there's a lemon and a pumpkin spice syrup that uses cinnamon, allspice, nutmeg, clove, ginger, and just cooked it into a syrup. So this one's just like a easy drinking fall drink that I hope you enjoy. So again, each jar has two. Because there's lemon in it, you want to drink it within 3 days. Pour half of it into a shaker if you're just shaking one. If you're shaking two, pour the whole jar in there. And then I would serve it up, which means in a stemmed cocktail glass. But if you want to pour it over ice, you can also pour it over ice after shaking. If you don't want to shake it, if you want to be a little bit lazy, take the jar and do a dry shake on it, which is shaking without ice, as I talked about in the last video, because you're going to get that head that's on the drink, which is what you want. The second middle cocktail is the one that I'm the most excited about, and that is this is like just a little bit in here. This is not what your jar will look like, but this is the clarified zombie. So milk clarification is a technique that's been around since the 1700s, and it was used as a preservation method for one, and for two, it was thought that milk was added to kind of balance to some drinks to balance it out and make it maybe go down easier in the 1700s. So the reason that it is a preservative for drinks is that what you're intentionally doing is curdling the milk in a drink that calls for citrus. So in this case, I really love doing it with tiki drinks because there's a really nice contrast between the texture of the drink. It doesn't taste like juicy in the sense of like, it doesn't taste like you're drinking fruit juice. It drinks a little bit, texture-wise, feels a little bit boozier. So it's just a really nice contrast, but the flavor profile is like really light and fruity. So it's just a really nice contrast. But what you're doing is you're in so curdling the milk, you are stripping out solids in the spirit. So I put in the email, like if you've ever had orange juice that's fresh squeezed, you leave that in your fridge and it separates and all of that orange solids go to the bottom and the top of it is kind of this pale yellow, pale orange color. That is because the color that comes in citrus is tiny little particulates. And the curdling of the milk will bind to those particulates and then basically pull them out and pull out a little bit of color in that process. Because you're removing some of those particles in there, there's just less to spoil, there's less to go wrong with the drink. So this one is actually shelf stable for quite a bit. Out of an abundance of caution, and because everything is terrible, I would encourage you to drink it a little bit faster, but if you somehow couldn't get around to it, that's perfectly fine. So this is the only one that I'm gonna make because I'm gonna have it before I hit the road. My girlfriend's driving, don't worry. So this is, so I would just pour this over ice. I wouldn't shake it, I wouldn't stir it separately. Each jar, again, will have two. If you have the big size jar, if you only ordered one, you'll have a half size jar. And then I would give this just a quick stir. You can either do it with a bar spoon or, a very quick finger stir. And that's just to lightly chill it, lightly dilute it. But you don't want to dilute it too much right off the bat because you really want to, I think, experience that like really nice kind of silky consistency to it. I also put some history of the zombie cocktail in there, I believe. So it was like one of the original tiki drinks in the 1930s by a guy named Don. I forgot his last name off the top of my head, but that's kind of, he started tiki culture and he kept the recipe a very closely guarded secret. I'd highly encourage you to check out that podcast that was in the email. Gastropod does amazing work, food history and so forth. Finally, we have the Blood Orange Returns, I believe I called it. So back in February, I juiced a case of blood oranges for a friend's wedding in the before times. And I had all of these blood orange peels left over, and one of my favorite cocktails in Decatur is a drink called Gutter Pop that started at Leon's by Miles McCary, who's now one of the owners and lead bartender at Kimball House. And I asked him one day, how do you make the blood orange soda that goes in the Gutter Pop? And basically he told me that they use a lot of blood orange peel, but very little blood orange juice, because orange juice, it doesn't really go well in cocktails unless you like concentrate it or clarify it. And the peel though has a lot of like really unique blood orange flavor to it. So I thought it was a waste to throw away a whole case worth of blood orange peels. So I salt cured them, which means basically you just bury them in salt, and the salt prevents any bacteria from growing and so forth. It draws out a lot of the oil that's in there. So I'm gonna figure out what to do with the blood orange salt as well. But it preserved these peels, and because I got a new very high-powered blender, I was able to blend the blood orange peels in with simple syrup. So your drink will be a little bit cloudy. I don't know if you can see there. That's normal because that's just the blood orange particulate falling out of solution. So before you pour it off, like if you're making just one at a time, give it just like a gentle mix. You're not trying to incorporate air into this, but you are trying to homogenize the drink. And then I would stir this separately and pour over ice, or you could just build it over ice by pouring half of it over there. And it's just an old-fashioned riff. I'm using 2 different whiskeys in this. I had a little bit of the Old Forester 100 proof left over from last week. And then I'm mixing that with Elijah Craig's Small Batch, which I've put in a drink before. You might know that it's one of my favorite whiskeys. So this one has a high ABV. I want to say it's about 90 proof of the whiskeys. And then a little bit of blood orange syrup, and then some really special blood orange and ginger bitters that a friend of mine brought back from Napa Valley about 2 or 3 years ago. So I've had these bitters and love to use them in blood orange drinks and around the winter time especially. So I hope if you got this one, I really hope that you enjoy it. I think it is a really beautiful old fashioned. It finishes really orangey, but not like an overpowering kind of juice or like juice would thin out the drink. So anyway, happy Halloween. The election night menu will come out on Sunday, and then I will do election deliveries on Monday, it looks like. So I hope that you are staying sane and are less anxious than me, and I hope that you enjoy these cocktails. Cheers.